It's what they need, what they want, and also does it in a way oftentimes of anticipating what it is they want before they even know what they want. And I'm going to come back to that point in a minute. I want to talk about a couple of things that we've discovered in our research. First, 81% of customers say that communication is important to them in their relationships with businesses, so they expect to be communicated with. Okay, so you know you have a responsibility to communicate with them. What are you going to say? What are you going to communicate to them? It's not clear that every organization is really doing this well, right? In insurance and financial services, as you can see from this slide, about 50% of customers feel like this is being done in an excellent or very good way, which means 50% say that it isn't, right? So you now have a large addressable market. You know that. You know it's important. You know that if you're average, and we know none of you are, but if you're average, you're getting it you're wrong about half the time, right? So there's an opportunity to fix this. So how do you fix this? Well, one mechanism is using the Conversation Cloud from Smart Communications that allows you to do the collection of information from customers, get that information from them, ask them questions that are important, because remember, your customers are using a product when they're dealing with you that they didn't expect to use, right? So it's an occasional or infrequent thing. But if you look at all of your customers, you're dealing with them all the time. You're dealing with claims, you're dealing with selling them product. So you know what they want, you know what they need, you know what the experiences are, because you deal with so many people where coming back the other way, it's a very infrequent interaction. So people need guidance, they need help. So being able to collect information from customers, to ask them questions, and to do it in a quick, clean, adaptive way, using their phones or whatever device they have. And once you've collected that information, be able to communicate back to them the things that you know that they need, the things that you have the experience in delivering for those customers, and then going forward, being able to collaborate with them, manage back and forth with that customer as you work through that process, and then being able to coordinate your future communications with those customers so that they can be able to understand in the future what the next steps are, how to move forward into the next thing that they need to be able to do. And you can guide them through that in a way that they can't guide themselves. So the Conversation Cloud from Smart Communications enables these kinds of capabilities. Now, pivoting a little bit to how that happens in the Smart Communications design environment is the Smart Communications single template, where in organizations you oftentimes are communicating with customers where you have a communication that you need to send out, but then it varies by language, jurisdiction, brand, and all of a sudden the template that you started with is now 20 templates or 30 templates, but it's the same communication. So being able to bring all of that content back into a single template where you can manage it, control it, update it predictably and consistent with your own policies and consistent with the law is very helpful in smart communication. So being able to leverage that single template is very important and a very pivotal capability within smart communications. Now, I want to pivot a little bit to the relationship we have with Guidewire, because that's why we're all here. This is a Guidewire conference, and Smart Communications is very proud of the relationship that it has with Guidewire. It started back in 2006. We formalized it in 2009, and we now have over 110 shared customers using Guidewire and Smart Communications together. We have, as you can see on this slide, a set of product integrations. We have over a dozen mechanisms that you can use to integrate our products together. We have a product roadmap that we share and communicate on to make sure that our products are staying in sync as we move forward. And we are Guidewire's premier customer communication management partner and product, right? They resell our product as their communications tool. We're very proud of this relationship, and if you're a Guidewire customer, you need to be a Smart Communications customer. You get an enormous amount of benefit in your communications by integrating these two things. I want to pivot now to a demo and show you a little bit about how Smart Communications is integrated into Claim Center, Policy Center, and Billing Center. I've got little video here that helps me get through this presentation. And I'm going to start with Claim Center. The aim here is to show you how I would be able to start in Claim Center with a claim and seamlessly leverage the Smart Communications draft editor to generate communications. So I'm going to start by choosing a claim, looking it over, seeing what I need to do, and going to the communications area here to choosing the documents that I want. And I can search for a template to generate this communication in a variety of different ways, right? That I can just search and go through a list and see the different relevant communications that I could use, or I could type in a keyword, say denial, and look for the denial-related claim, so I can search for templates in a variety of ways to find the ones that I need. And once I've found that denial template, or whatever I want to use, I can select that and start to fill in the blanks of what I want to generate here. So I can choose the channel of that communication, so I can choose print or email, and I can start to choose some data values related to who I want this to go to, how I want it to go, and also choose some output formatting items toward the bottom of the screen. Once I have filled in this preliminary information, I can click the button at the bottom, and you will see the Smart Communications Draft Editor opens up automatically within Claim Center. So it's white labeled, seamlessly integrated, iframed in, and allows me to scroll through and look at the letter. You'll see some gray areas that are locked down based on the role that I have to edit this, so I can control those sections. I can preview this and see it as the customer would see it. And then when I've seen it, I can now go in and make changes. And I can make those changes in a variety of different ways. As you can see, I can just type in some additional information to personalize this. Maybe it's based on a phone call that I've had with the customer. Maybe they called in and asked some questions, or maybe this is related to some detail of the claim that I know that I need to communicate to the customer that's not covered in the template itself. So I can take that approach. I can also access the data values in Guidewire and drag those into the communication. So I can drag in policy numbers, email addresses, other things that are stored in Guidewire. You can see I'm also tracking changes here, and I can show or hide the tracking of the changes, so I see those things in red. And I can also make changes in this communication in other ways. We have this idea of a choice list where we take common expressions or phrases or clauses, languages from your policy, and being able to put those on buttons so that you can add those things directly into the communication. So you can see as I click from radio button to radio button here, that changes the text that's being put into the letter. So if you have things that you say all the time, leveraging these radio buttons and the pre-built text in there, make sure that you can get the right text into the communication and get it in there right every time. You don't have to worry about typing it in or getting it wrong or not having the most current language there. I can also go into my library of clauses and drag those things in. So I have lots of ways of making sure that I'm getting the right information into my claims communications. And as you see here, I can make further modifications using my approved styles. So I can style the text using my branded style guidelines. And then I can go back and preview again, now that I've made a bunch of changes to this letter, and make sure that it looks right. You'll also notice that because of that radio button I checked, I got the right jurisdictional language in at the bottom of that communication. So now I've got this communication. I can now save it back into Guidewire, and I can see in Guidewire the history of the communications that I've generated. So I have the ability to look back and see what I have sent to the customer. Maybe the customer said they didn't get it. I can reissue that communication, send it to them again. But I have a contemporaneous record of everything that's been generated and sent to that customer when, and of course you can leverage Guidewire's capabilities to have approvals for these items. So before I send it, it could go to Ruth, she could look it over, give it some changes, or reject it back to me, and say you need to add this additional clause or information. I want to pivot now to Policy Center to show you a little bit about how this is going to work. So here, I'm going into Policy Center, and I'm going to go and create a policy. So once that is bound, I can then start to work with this, right? So I'm going to come back into Policy Center, and I can have a look at what I have created, what documents I am dynamically generating through Guidewire and Smart Communications and open those communications up and have a look at the policy document here. So I can come in, click over on my new documents, and here open this document up and have a look at this policy now that I've created it, right? So I can automatically create the policy, and then right before my eyes I have a template-driven mechanism for producing that policy document, scroll through, make sure everything's right, check the subtotals and all of the various elements that the customer might have asked for, and make sure that this policy is exactly the way it needs to be. I can also go back into this, and while this policy declaration was being looked at and viewed, the ID card also got generated behind the scenes. So now I can have a look at that ID card and make sure that that is right and be able to view all of that, all integrated cleanly into the Guidewire Policy Center environment. So you have a nice way of living in the Guidewire tools that you're used to and familiar with, but extending that into the customer communication area that Smart Communications provides. Finally, Billing Center. I want to be able to show you that capability as well. So I'm going to go into Billing Center and I'm going to have a look at a bill here and see how that can be modified or changed if I want to extend a little additional information about what we are going to ask this customer to do, or maybe remind them of when their bill date is coming up. So here again, I've got the bill. I can look at this bill and the Smart Communications template behind it that's driving this bill. And then you see I have this little white area here where I can make changes. So I'm just going to type in some additional information here, reminding the customer to pay their bill and thanking them for being a customer. And the other thing that is nice here is you'll see as I'm making changes to this and as I'm modifying the communication, I'm able to style that text to make it stand out a little more using the guidelines that have been defined. In other words, our style set is tied to your corporate identity guidelines. So you don't just get any styles, any bolds or text. It's locked down to what you allow in Smart Communications. And then I can start adding data values in here. So I can look in Guidewire, grab a due date, put it into the communication, and then drop that in place to construct the message. And you'll also see I tried to make a change in one of the gray areas there, and I got that little yellow box telling me I can't change that, right? So that also shows you that the rest of this bill is locked down, so people can't change a billing amount or some other critical piece of information that is really being driven by Guidewire, and you don't want people to edit in the bill itself or in the communication itself. So now I can have a look at this bill, make sure that everything is correct here, and save that into Guidewire again. And this brings me to the end of the demo for those three pieces of the suite of Guidewire, Claim Center, Billing Center, and Policy Center. I want to advance to talk a little bit about a success with Smart Communications, and I'm going to ask Ruth, who's very familiar with this success, to talk a little bit about how this worked. Ruth?
So you've heard quite a bit about Mountain West Farm Bureau on the main stage, and you'll hear more about them throughout the week as they progress. They were able to actually take 5 legacy CCM platforms and migrate them to Smart Communications, where now they have the ability to digitally deliver their customers' communication, where in the past it oftentimes had to be delivered by mule train. So the opportunities to really help them to engage with their customers more efficiently and more effectively. They did that at the same time that they implemented Guidewire for 5 different product lines and personal lines across 3 different states. They were able to do Guidewire and Smart Communications and all of the migration from all of their templates in just 275 days across that experience. And now they really have the foundational pieces in place so that they can begin to help support their agents to more effectively communicate. Everything from sending electronic birthday cards and interacting with SMS and text messaging. And so we really encourage you to hear more about the Mountain West Farm Bureau story, as you'll hear about that customer as well as many other customers throughout this week. We also have a booth right behind us. We encourage you to stop by and visit us. You'll get a chance to win big prizes, but you can learn more about the Conversation Cloud and how we can help you change the game to better engage with your customers and have smarter conversations. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you.